So Riley Keough recently did an article for Vanity Fair about growing up Presley, losing Lisa Marie, and inheriting Graceland. Um, her grandfather died, Elvis, before she was born, but his house in Memphis stayed in the family, Graceland. Years ago, Riley Keough and her mom, Lisa Marie Presley, would visit for Thanksgiving with Keough's brother and sisters. They would stay at the official hotel, and when the tourists departed the legendary home for the day, they'd go over and hang out, drive golf carts around the grounds, and celebrate the season together. When Elvis's chefs were alive, they used to still cook dinner for us, which was really special, she tells me. It was very southern. Greens and fried catfish, fried chicken and hush puppies, cornbread and beans, banana pudding. It's an early evening in May, Keough's 34th birthday as it happens, and we're in a hotel lobby outside St. Gallen, Switzerland. Oh, I'd like to go visit there. That sounds pretty. Hoping a waiter will materialize. The place is nearly empty. An elderly woman sleeps in a wheelchair. A bartender swats flies away from a sweating cheese plate. A pianist is attempting to enliven happy hour with a classical rendition of REM's "Losing My Religion." The chords reverberate around the vast, sterile rotunda. There were a few times that we slept there, Keough says of Graceland, but I don't know if I should say that. She pauses. The second floor has always been closed to the public out of respect for Elvis Presley's family because the singer had a fatal heart attack there. Then again, Keough's family was Presley's family. So who had the right to be there if not them? The tours would start in the morning, and we would hide upstairs until they were over. She continues, the security would bring us breakfast. It's actually such a great memory. We would order sausage and biscuits and hide until the tourists finished. In the coming weeks, I'll hear Keough's unself-conscious laugh and see the Spitfire side of her that her friends adore. But today she speaks softly and carefully, with her knees pulled up to her chest. Life has thrown a lot at her in short order, some of it joyous, some of it obliterating. The death of her brother by suicide in 2020, the birth of her and her husband's daughter in 2022, which is Tupelo. I announced that on my page long before anybody knew. The death of her mother following complications of prior weight loss surgery earlier this year. The debut of her star-making 70s rock series, Daisy Jones and the Six, for which she was nominated for an Emmy. A surprising legal fight with her grandmother, Priscilla, over Lisa Marie's estate and hence Graceland, as well as the family's interest in Elvis Presley Enterprises. Keough and I will talk about all of this. She will introduce me to her baby and tell me the girl's name, which she's never made public before. She'll say of losses she suffered, and there were times it felt like something fundamental had broken inside of her. But now, in the hotel lobby, she says simply, this is not my best birthday. It's her first without her mother, for one thing. Last year, I was in Greece wrapping Daisy Jones. I found out that I won the Camera d'Or. I was on the beach, and it all happened at the same time. It was very beautiful. I feel like that'll ride through me this time. So Keough is now the sole custodian of Graceland and the family shares of Elvis Presley Enterprises, all of which were worth just $5 million at the time of Elvis's death and are now reportedly worth in the neighborhood of $500 million. She's also a rising star, producer, director. The award at Cannes was for the drama War Pony, which she co-directed with Gina Gamel and about two Lakota boys on a reservation in South Dakota. Everything that happened to Keough this year, good and bad, happened in full public view and will continue to. There's the Kennedys and there's the Presleys, says Boz Luhrmann, who got to know Keough and her mother while working on Elvis. They are the royal families of America. Now, not Priscilla. She's not included in that. She really isn't. It's Riley. It was Lisa. It was Elvis. And in different ways, they both were, as Shakespeare says, wedded to calamity. Is it genetic? Is it because they have such high standards? Is it because the world watches them? Maybe. Because to be American royalty is not just to have your country watch you. To be American royalty is to have the whole world watch you. And that's what happened with Elvis. That's what happened with Lisa Marie Presley. That's what's happening with Riley. Certainly not what happened with Priscilla unless she puts herself out there in the limelight herself. The waiter never shows up. Keough smiles politely at the pianist's efforts. Let's go for a walk, she says. The guy over there is playing The Little Mermaid with Bono glasses on. Her husband and daughter, who are as jet-lagged as she is, are sleeping upstairs. Efficient glass doors snap open and shut, and we pass a placard about the history of the hotel. It's a former Swiss sanatorium. I now see why Keough prefers to be outside as often as possible. So I see why Keough prefers to be outside as often as possible. The Alps in one direction, Lake Constance in the other. I ask the obvious questions. Why are we in Switzerland? I have Lyme disease, Keough says. She pulls her long hair, still damp from the shower, away from her bare face. I used this little break that I have to come and try to see if I can alleviate it a little bit. It's a holistic treatment center and offers all kinds of things that you can't really do in America yet, like cleaning your blood. Now that's interesting. I have to kind of stop for a second and talk about my music manager, Merle Kilgore, used to go down to Mexico and clean his blood. And also country music star Vern Gosdin, who I wrote with and I produced his last record, used to do the same thing. Well, she continues. She's never addressed Lyme disease in detail before. Later, I will ask her Daisy Jones co-star Sam Claflin if he saw Keough struggle with pain during production. Once she told me there were moments where I'd catch it, he says. I'd noticed that she disengaged in fleeting moments between scenes. The fact that she has all that underlying day-to-day, her routine is battling that on top of everything else. It's nothing short of miraculous. Keough herself doesn't discuss the debilitating symptoms she's lived with. She's conscious that people may write her off as a poor little rich girl, though her mother was reportedly millions in debt when she died. We look for a place to sit on the lawn. This is my first break in a lot of years, she says, as we claim a patch of grass. I'm actually a workaholic. This past week, Keough wrapped production in Vancouver on a miniseries she's producing and starring in for Hulu called Under the Bridge. Appeared in Mexico City's at Dior's 2024 cruise show, and celebrated the launch of a new Cartier jewelry collection in Florence. She's also been shepherding new projects at her and Gamel's production company, Felix Scopa. And here she is in Switzerland, doing an interview with me after 8 hours of uncomfortable treatment on her birthday. I ask where she thinks she got her work ethic from. Not from my parents, she says. Her father is a musician, Danny Keough. Not from anyone in my family. I came out of the womb like that. Now, in all honesty, she got it from Elvis. That's what Elvis was, a nonstop worker. It's sad that she doesn't realize that, or maybe she just didn't say it. Just kind of slipped her mind to even think about that. Keough's wearing a smock shirt, blue jeans, and Charvet slippers. She takes off the slippers and digs her toes into the grass. I think we're half nature, half nurture. I was naturally somebody that was very punctual and hardworking and wanted to do things. Now, once again, that's also what Elvis was. My upbringing was very different to that. It was a very no schedule. Sometimes we go to school, sometimes we don't. That was what I was used to. So I was living basically out of my teen and childhood years as though that was what I wanted. But I'm definitely an adventurous and spontaneous person. But I thrive on routine, she said. My parents said when I was little, I was very much trying to organize things and make things happen. So, Keough made the cover of People magazine when there was still a pacifier in her mouth. Her mom posed with her alongside the cover line, Elvis's first grandchild. Here she is. So Reese Witherspoon, an executive producer on Daisy Jones, put Keough's career in context nimbly. This is what Reese Witherspoon said. Despite all the money and the trappings that seem to facilitate an easier life, that is a very, very challenging life. To be under constant scrutiny and still rise to the top and still perform at the highest level. I'm really in awe of her and how much she challenged herself. And don't sleep on this undeniable truth because she didn't have to. Keough made the cover of People when there was still a pacifier in her mouth. She was born in 1989 in Santa Monica, and her mom posed with her alongside the cover line, Elvis's first grandchild. Here she is. The magazine paid $300,000 for the exclusive. Keough's father is Irish and Jewish. Her mother was Scottish, Irish, Norwegian, and indigenous, and very hillbilly. As for herself, Keough says, I'm an American girl. This particular American girl's parents met while the mom was living at the Church of Scientology Celebrity Center in L.A. Lisa Marie Presley and Priscilla joined after Elvis's death. I think they joined before that, or Priscilla did, because she was talking about it in 1973. Keough was raised in the church, but the family reportedly left it in 2014. I grew up with my dad reading tarot card books and metaphysics, she tells me. He's very spiritual. I'm very spiritual. Faith is a loaded word for people, but I think faith is faith in anything. Faith in love, humanity, the universe, whatever it is. I don't go to church, but I was always able to identify that spirituality. It was something that I really needed in my life. Her family split their time between California, Florida, and Hawaii. Keough's late brother Benjamin, Storm Keough, was born in 1992. Around this time, Keough's already unusual childhood sloughed off any remaining resemblance to normality. In 93, Michael Jackson was accused of abusing a 13-year-old boy. He turned to his close friend Lisa Marie Presley for support. A year later, after Jackson had settled with the boy's family for reportedly $20 million, he proposed to her. She separated from Danny Keough, and 20 days later, she and Jackson eloped. The media suspected the marriage was a publicity stunt to rehab Jackson's reputation, but Lisa Marie Presley denied it. I was very much in love with Michael. I dedicated my life to being his wife. Jackson's addiction to pills has been cited as the reason their marriage dissolved a year and a half later. So Keough says my whole childhood was probably very extreme. She breaks the tension with one of her big guttural laughs. In hindsight, I can see how crazy things would be to somebody from the outside, but when you're living in them, it's just your life and your family. You just remember the love, and I had real love for Michael. Um, so her memories are often idyllic, like the time the singer shut down a toy store in Paris. Maybe it was London when she needed a teddy bear. I think he really got a kick out of being able to make people happy in the most epic way possible, which I think he and my grandfather had in common. I point out the surreal fact that Keough has called both Graceland and Neverland home. Which one did I like better, she wonders aloud. I spent more time at Neverland than Graceland, to be honest. That was a real home, whereas Graceland was just kind of a museum in my lifetime. After Lisa Marie and Jackson split, she married Nicolas Cage. 4 months later, they separated. Keough doesn't keep in touch with Cage, but says she'd be game to do a movie with him. He's a great actor. I've had some wild stepfathers, uh, famous and not famous. She steers the conversation back to Danny Keough, whose humble lifestyle has been a grounding effect when she was young. Her life was so fragmented, says Gamble, a close friend as well as Keough's producing partner. He's someone who had no money, and she had this incredibly regular life with him, and then eras with her mom that were extraordinary. That's why she's so comfortable in any place. Lisa Marie Presley's base was Calabasas, California. I think when we lived there, it was just us and Melissa Etheridge. It was horse country, says Keough. I'm an OG Calabasas girl. The Kardashians were there too, but this was long before the show. My grandma dated their dad, I think, Keough said. Yeah, he did. Fact check that. She's right. Priscilla dated Robert Kardashian after her divorce from Elvis in '73. She refused to marry him while Elvis was alive, so they parted ways. In 2014, Kim Kardashian and Kanye West bought the property where Keough's childhood home once stood. The original house had been demolished and a bigger one built. West enlisted Axel Vudort to design the family's compound where Kim lives now. As a teenager, Keough's family traveled so much that it was hard to get traction at school. I was always at a loss, she says. My father really cared about my education. My mom was like, "You're an artist. Go be an artist." Keough didn't graduate from high school, though she still wants to someday. She turned to books as well as museums, films, and anything else that she could use to educate herself. I like math, she says, and my grammar isn't as bad as you'd think, given the circumstances. At 14, Keough began modeling. She was a catwalk mainstay for a few seasons and notched a Vogue cover with Mom and Grandma, as well as a Miss Dior campaign. Through it all, her friend group has remained consistent, with Dakota Johnson, Zoe Kravitz, and Kristen Stewart among her nearest and dearest. All three describe Keough as graceful, humble, and fearless, and for the record, they don't seem to have strategized in a group text beforehand. They're incredulous at the strength she's displayed over the past 3 years. I would do anything to take her pain away, says Johnson, and they note that Keough's quietness makes you lean in and pay attention, both on screen and off. She's delicate, they say, not to be confused with weak. Kravitz and Keough were breastfed in close proximity because their moms were friends, and somewhere there's a VHS tape of them running around a 3-year-old's birthday party together, but it was a chance New Year's bash at 16 that bonded them for life. I think consistency is the thing that I've always appreciated about Riley, Kravitz said. No matter what situation we're in, no matter what crowd we're in, she's the same person. I've never questioned her integrity. Then a laugh. She's definitely got this crazy little demon inside of her that just likes to, give her a couple tequilas and she is rowdy. I replay all of this to Keough and she erupts with laughter. I don't think the wildness exists in the same way now, she says. I don't really drink anymore, but definitely in my late teens and into my mid-20s, I was an adventurer. Now I'm a bit of a granny. Keough met Johnson in an In-N-Out parking lot when they were 16. It was like finding a soulmate, Johnson tells me. Her own parents, Don Johnson and Melanie Griffith, were on the cover of People when she was newly conceived. The cover line blaring, "They're priggers." When I met her, I felt this thing that is so impossible to articulate growing up in a famous family, Johnson continues. There was this solidarity and understanding. We would just smoke cigarettes with our moms, and they'd call each other and be like, "I guess she's going to stay with you for the next 4 days. Call me if she needs a ride." I go to Riley's and then leave a week later. I don't know if that's normal, but yeah, just running around LA, sharing clothes, smelling like Nag Champa. Most of it involved music festivals and dating musicians. Of course, seeing her old friend in Daisy Jones and the Six, it all tracks. Since the Emmy-nominated series dominated and debuted last year, Keough has been almost frustratingly humble about her singing voice, which she sang softly here and there when she was growing up, but not much more. Johnson, it turns out, has a better memory. When we were 19, we started a joke band called Folky, Porn. Riley and I both had blonde hair. We were hiding out in New York after breakups. We would do three-part harmonies with my brother Alexander on Hank Williams songs and John Prine songs, and we'd film them on photo booth. Thousands and thousands of takes. I relay all of this to Keough too, and she's thrilled to be reminded of her teenage pipe dream. "Oh my goodness, Dakota did discover me," she says. "I've been lying to the world. I was in a band." I asked Keough if she'd rather go on tour with the Six or Folky, Porn. "Don't ask me those kind of questions," she protests laughingly. "It's very controversial, but I would rather go on tour with Folky, Porn. Keough snagged her very first professional acting job, The Runaways, a biopic about the 70s band with Stewart as Joan Jett. She was kind of this elusive figure on set because she was with us so briefly, but she comes in with a baked-in, unavoidable gravitas, Stewart tells me. She's Elvis's grandkid, so obviously we were curious about her. You know what I mean? And she was really, really, and I mean this affectionately, painfully shy. In her early 20s, Keough self-taped an audition for the scene-stealing role as a stripper in Steven Soderbergh's Magic Mike. The director not only cast her, but worked with her on two subsequent projects as well, Logan Lucky and The Girlfriend Experience, the latter earning a Golden Globe nomination. The most surprising thing about Riley is her complete fearlessness in performing. Soderbergh says she protects nothing. Whatever her process is, she must have a process. You just don't roll up with stuff that's great. She wouldn't dream of burdening anyone with it. I mean, I can't find anything wrong with her. I can't find anything wrong with her. Stuart Second says she's the best thing in everything she's done because she's not acting. She's a solid cinder. She's always being honest, and that's a vulnerable place to put yourself. And I don't mean to belittle any project, but there are some actors that just can't do anything uninteresting. Keough met the Australian stuntman and actor Ben Smith Peterson in 2013 while making Mad Max, Fury Road, and then later road tripped to Byron Bay. "I remember it so vividly. I just knew that we were going to have kids," Keough said. "It was, in hindsight, very strange. I didn't know how we'd get there, but we did." The couple married in 2015. Both Keough and Stewart still light up at the memory of the bachelorette trip to Central California's oasis of Quiche, the Madonna Inn. "We're really good at hotel hangs," Stewart tells me. "We've never been kicked out of a hotel, though. That's saying something." "We were listening to Spice Girls, the Backstreet Boys, and TLC," says Keough. "The rooms were pink and glittery. We wore PENIS headbands. We ate dinner in the weird little restaurant, and we were too loud," says Stewart. "That's a really unflattering paparazzi picture of us hungover the next morning, forever on the internet," says Keough. "It's my most fun memory. Google her name and bachelorette party. The photo looks like a poster for a heist film." Back in Switzerland, the sun is setting and Keough has wrapped herself in a sweater. We're so many hours ahead of LA that when we started talking inside, the only birthday wishes that she'd gotten were automatic emails from her doctor and dentist offices. Ever since we sat in the grass, though, her phone has been singing with alerts from friends. Keough smiles. "Oh my God, so many texts. I must be special," she jokes. We say goodbye for the day in the lobby as Keough slips away to join her husband and daughter. The pianist, in all seriousness, starts playing Can't Help Falling in Love. Too late, Riley Keough has left the building. The world first discovered that Keough and her husband had welcomed a daughter at Lisa Marie's funeral at Graceland in January. Keough wrote a eulogy but was too overcome to deliver it, so her husband read it for her. By the way, That is on the homepage of the Elvis 2022 channel that you're on right now, Rare Elvis Photos. It's two different names. So if you want to hear that letter, I'll read it to you on that homepage there. So it's a beautiful, moving poem. That's my son screaming in the background, by the way. All right, so let's keep going. It included these lines: I hope I can love my daughter the way you love me, the way you love my brother and my sisters. Thank you for giving me strength, my heart, my empathy, my courage, my sense of humor, my manners, my temper, my wildness, my tenacity. I'm a product of your heart. Well, that makes me want to crack up right there and cry. On a June afternoon, Keough hugs me hello outside the unassuming 70s tract house that she and Smith Peterson had been renting at the end of the cul-de-sac in Calabasas. Don't judge, this isn't my aesthetic, she says. After my mom died, I needed to be close to my sisters. There were only 3 houses available here, so we just moved in, and we were stuck. The family's moved to a more private place tomorrow, even though there's a paparazzo parked at the end of the street and Smith Peterson is packing boxes in the garage. The family will still be close to Keough's 14-year-old half-sisters Harper and Finley Lockwood, which is imperative. Lorman remembers Keough at Lisa Marie Presley's funeral, holding the twins. I asked if the new place is her ideal home. No, but I love suburbia, she says. This is my dream, normalcy. I'm happy out here. Keough ushers me inside, and over the barking of the family dogs, Zushi and Grubs, I hear an infant's cry. Hi, baby, she says. Then to me, she said, this is Tupelo. Tupelo Storm Smith Peterson arrived via surrogate in August of 2022. Keough says of the surrogacy, I think it's a very cool, selfless, and incredible act that these women do to help other people. I can carry children, but I felt like it was the best choice for what I had going on physically with the autoimmune stuff. As for her daughter's name, Tupelo, of course, was the king of rock and roll's birthplace in Mississippi. It's funny because we picked her name before the Elvis movie. Keough said, I was like, this is great because it's not a really well-known word or name in relation to my family. It's not like Memphis or something. A big laugh at her naivety. Then when the Elvis movie came out, it was like Tupelo this and Tupelo that, and I was like, oh no, but it's fine. Her daughter's middle name is a tribute to her late brother, Benjamin Storm Keough, who died when he was 27. Keough reaches into the playpen and picks up her 10-month-old girl. There's no question who the father is. She's literally like someone shrunk my husband, and that's our baby, Keough says. Then softly, she lets me in on the secret. I'll show you where I am. She turns Tupelo so the back of her head faces me, the curl right there. Keough smiles and tugs gently on a blonde tendril at the nape of the baby's neck. I also see Keough in Tupelo's eyes and smile. Keough tries to hand the baby to her sitter, but Tupelo wants Mama, so the 3 of us make our way to the backyard, where a wooden bench overlooks a man-made lake. Tupelo coos in her mother's lap and plays with my sunglasses. This is the thing in my life so far that I've really wanted to, quote-unquote, get right, Keough said. I don't think you can ever be a perfect parent, but I would like to be the best mom for her that I can be. Keough pauses for a long, long time, very important to me. I hear echoes in this of her eulogy for her mom. I'm certain I chose the best mother for me in the world, and I knew that as far back as I can remember you. Later, when Tupelo is snapping and the California sun is bearing down, Keough sits in a lounge chair in a white tank top, yellow bikini bottom, and straw sun hat. She has sunglasses perched on the tip of her nose, and she's eating a red apple. After 15 days of treatment in Switzerland, she's feeling better. It's the first thing that she's tried that has worked. Since we met, Keough's settlement with her grandmother has been made public. In return for becoming the sole trustee of Lisa Marie Presley's estate, Keough will reportedly pay Priscilla $1 million and cover $400,000 in legal fees. So she's covered $400,000 of this lawsuit that her grandma put against her. That's pretty crazy and pretty generous. Her lawyer has said Keough wouldn't have settled if she wasn't happy. She says, she knew these questions were coming. She takes a breath. When my mom passed, there was a lot of chaos in every aspect of our lives. Everything felt like the carpet had been ripped out and the floor had melted underneath us. Everyone was in a bit of panic to understand how we move forward, and it just took a minute to understand the details of the situation because it's complicated. We are a family, but there's also a huge business side of our family, so I think there was clarity that needed to be had. And clarity has been had? She smiles. Yes, clarity has been had. Are things with Grandma happy? Things with Grandma will be happy, Keough says. They've never been not happy. They've never not been happy. She pauses, just simpler thoughts. I'm trying to think of a way to answer it that's not a 20-minute conversation. Another long pause. There was a bit of upheaval, but now everything's going to be how it was. She's a beautiful woman, and that's a huge part of creating my father. She was a huge part of creating my grandfather's legacy in Graceland. It's very important to her. He was the love of her life. Anything that would suggest otherwise in the press makes me sad because at the end of the day, all she wants is to love and protect Graceland and the Presley family and the legacy. That's her whole life. So it's a big responsibility she has tried to take on. None of that stuff has really been part of our relationship prior. She's just been my grandma. And that's why Riley Keough, she hasn't dealt with this whole business side. I mean, her mom had huge issues with grandma. So I don't know. I'm not going to argue with Riley. That's she's stating what she's stating, either because she truly believes it or because it's a legal thing. There have been conflicting reports online about whether Priscilla will be allowed to be buried at Graceland. I don't know why she wouldn't be buried at Graceland, says Keough. I don't understand what the drama in the news was about. Yeah, if she wants to be, of course, sharing Graceland with the world was her idea from the start. She pauses and swallows. I always had positive and beautiful memories associated with Graceland. Now, a lot of my family's buried there, so it's a place of great sadness at this point in my life. One of those people is her younger brother. He, in a lot of ways, felt like my twin, Keough said. We were very connected and very similar. He was much quicker and wittier and smarter than me, she musters a laugh. He was a very special soul. After Benjamin's death, Riley moved in with her mother for 6 months. After that, I would still sleep at her house like 2 or 3 times a week. She wanted us there. If it was up to her, I would have lived there full time. Keough saw her mother at a party for Elvis a day after the Golden Globes this year. That was the last time I saw her. I remember thinking about how beautiful she looked, and that was my strongest memory of the dinner. When Keough addresses the accumulated tragedies head on, the sentences come in pieces. I have been through a great deal of pain, and I have my times when I feel like my heart has exploded. But I also feel, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, I have strengthened the qualities that have come about through adversity. I ask what she wants people to remember about her mother. She sighs, and then she smiles. Oh my gosh, I think it would take hours and hours to summarize her, but she was really one of a kind. She lets out another one of those booming laughs that seems too big for her body. She was just so unapologetically herself in every circumstance and so strong. Here the sentence starts coming in pieces again. The life she had was not easy, and the treachery she endured and the lack of real love and real friends. She definitely had some great friends and relationships in her life, but I don't think she ever really had. People were just coming for her since she was born, wanting something from her and not totally being authentic. She had to develop very thick skin. She had a very powerful presence and extremely loving and extremely loyal and sort of a lioness, a fierce woman, and a really beautiful mother, a wonderful mother. I think that would be a summary because I'm her daughter and she was the best mom. She stops for a moment. When I lost my brother, there was no roadmap whatsoever. And it was a lot of big emotions that I didn't know what to do with. She says, when I lost my mom, I was familiar with the process a little bit more, and I found working to be really helpful. I find it triggering when people say happiness is a choice. But in that moment, I did feel like there was a choice in front of me, to give up or let this event take me out or have the courage to work through it. So I started trying to move through it and not let it take me out. Keough clearly poured herself a lot into Daisy Jones. This was one of those career-making moments, and it was in her, Witherspoon says. She was willing to go there and really share a lot of her deep personal experiences with an audience. Especially if you get to episodes 8, 9, and 10, you start to see this woman unraveling in a way that is so real and so visceral and terrifying. She went there despite everything going on in her life. The last time I see Keough is a Thursday night in downtown LA at a concert by her friend Blake Mills, the singer-songwriter responsible for the most of the music on Daisy Jones. Ever the workaholic, Keough was carrying a tote bag with the dress, heels, and jewelry she just wore to a Jaeger LeCouture store opening across town. She changed into jeans and a white t-shirt in the car. I ask how her family's move went, and she tells me it's been postponed because the new place is still being painted. She's upbeat nonetheless. I like moving, she says. You can get rid of stuff. Seats have been reserved for Keough, but she'd rather be close to the front, so we thread through the crowd, and soon her husband joins us. It's a small venue, a former Presbyterian church, and the AC is broken. Still, Keough is the concert goer I wish I could be, hanging on every word, swaying with the music, totally present. Every so often, a lyric seems to hit home and she shares a loving glance with her husband. By 9 p.m., Keough is starving, so she times a Postmates delivery to eat outside during intermission. My parents said when I was little I was very much trying to organize things and make things happen. Keough had hope for Goop Kitchen, but it was closed, so there's no pretending this isn't an LA story. She went with Erewhon, Erewhon maybe? Unfortunately, they forgot utensils. Keough laughs, I guess I'm eating vegan lasagna with my hands. The three of us sit on a steps outside of a former church as she does. A night out is rare for the new parents. They're morning people who are usually in bed at 9. Neither can remember their last concert. Back inside, we listen to Mills until close to midnight. We're all fading, but Keough isn't ready to leave. One more song, she tells me, eyeing the clock. She leans into her husband's body, her eyes never leaving the stage, the smile never leaving her face. Mills introduces By Myself from Daisy Jones. This song was sung by Riley Keough, he says. It's a ballad about turbulence and self-reliance, among other things, comparing life to a wind-rough sea. When it's over, Keough says, I think that's a good one to end on. Outside, she hugs me goodbye and takes her husband's hand. They walk off into the night towards their car, which they've parked on a street like everybody else. There's a line at the end of Daisy Jones. The chosen ones never know they are chosen. At her home in Calabasas, I asked Keough what she thought of it, and she joked about how she knew some chosen ones who definitely think they deserve to be chosen. Then she stopped deflecting. I think I've certainly been chosen for some wonderful things, and chosen for some horrible things too, she said. I'm aware that I have been through a lot of very crazy things, but I don't feel like a victim. I don't feel like poor Riley. Keough says the next part offhandedly, but it says a lot about her humility and her quest for normalcy, even as the world watches. I also don't really feel chosen. Thanks for listening to this Vanity Fair article. My throat is tired. It's been 32 minutes, and I've kind of tried to talk over my son playing video games in the background and screaming. He's 8 years old, and he screams his head off sometimes when he's playing video games with his friends online. Anyhow, I adore Riley. I don't really truly know whether or not things with her grandma are great and have always been great, but I'm certainly in no position to argue that that possibly could be a fact. Anyhow, take care. Support the Presley family. Riley's a great actress. I love her as an actress. I've loved everything she's been in. And, of course, I love her grandfather, Elvis. So, TCB, TLC, like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Become a member. And until I talk to you next time, I hope you enjoyed this video. The following photos are from the Vanity Fair article on Riley Keough, so enjoy these beautiful pictures of Riley.